Hello and welcome to the program. As the nation commemorates Democracy Day on June 12, Nigerians are reminded to renew their commitment to democratic principles, the rule of law, civil liberties, justice, and inclusive nation building. Though the events of 1993 are now history, the journey of democracy is ongoing. In Nigeria, June 12 now serves as both a celebration of past achievements and a challenge to current leaders. It is a day to reflect on how far Nigeria has come and how far it still must go to realize the full promise of democracy. For many Nigerians, the true legacy of June 12 lies in the pursuit of accountability, justice, equity, and the protection of civil liberties. This year's Democracy Day holds more significance owing to the declaration by former military head of state, retired General Ibrahim Babangida, that the late MKO, that's Moshood Kashimawo Abiola, won the controversial 1993 presidential election. While taking responsibility for the events of that period in his book, A Journey in Service, Babangida admitted that annulling the June 12 elections was the most challenging decision of his life. Expressing regret, Babangida disclosed that if given another chance, he would have handled the situation differently. Now, the 2025 Democracy Day event is the third under President Tinubu, who took office in 2023 after winning a tightly contested election. Well, let's discuss more on this. I'm joined on the program by Abdulrahman Abu Hamisu, a political affairs analyst. Thank you very much for joining us. Now, what's your assessment of Nigeria's democratic journey in the last 26 years?
Well, I would say that our journey has been a mixture of challenges and a bit of retrogression compared to the progress I would love to see. Because for every journey is either a journey in improvement or a journey in retrogression, which means there is no improvement. And I say this with all sense of responsibility and as a citizen of this nation that love this country dearly.
In your opinion now, what factors would you say are affecting Nigeria's democracy and how can they be solved?
Shown that those issues are always exacerbated under democratic dispensations. And what are the challenges? One is lack of development occasioned by deprivation, that is equally a product of abuse of power and abuse of resources that is entrusted to the people that are leading us. And what do I mean by that? We have Vision 2010 under General Sani Abacha, after which we have Vision 2020, and then we have Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. Rwanda of yesterday is ahead of us. And what is the difference? The difference is simple. It's the realignment of philosophy that appeal to the human sense. And what do I mean by that? It is the reformation of democracy to serve the people, instead of democracy serving the interests of the very few persons that are supposed to lead us. In Nigeria, there is what I call misalignment of interest. While the Constitution talked about collective aspiration by working to advance the welfare of all Nigerians, in practice, it is not so. It is the advancement of the interests of the very few people that are supposed to lead us. So when you look at the budget and the overhead cost, what you get is the service of political office holders, from councillors to House of Reps members to local government chairmen, to senators, to governors and the president. It's about their luxuries and what they can get from the system. And this has led to abuse. So it has perpetuated the pursuit of private interest over public interest, which is responsible for almost all the crises that we are seeing under democracy since we returned to Nigeria. In measuring all the indices of development, I beg to disagree that we've not made significant improvement in the following areas. One, education. Even the allocation to education is dwindling. It is under this democratic dispensation that lecturers went on strike for almost 8 months. In addition to several strikes that has taken place under Obasanjo. Under Obasanjo, it was almost 2 years of strike, industrial action. And that is democracy that's supposed to promote and pursue the interests of everybody. Now, you talk about security. Every day it is deteriorating. Before the return to democracy, we are not even aware of what is known as kidnapping for ransom. We are not even familiar with banditry. We are not familiar with incessant conflicts that has to do with farmers and others. It was there, but it's not as pronounced as we are having it now. The rate of corruption that is happening under the democratic dispensation was not even there under the military. Granted, under the military, things were done in secrecy. But after the transition, if there were things like that, then it should be in the open. For instance, starting from the Siemens scandal to issues around bribery of the National Assembly that was prevalent under General Olusegun Obasanjo, to Mambila Plateau under General Buhari, and the siphoning of monies that were meant for conditional cash transfer. So anytime we are practicing democratic dispensation, either from 1979 to 1983 or from 1999 to date, corruption is always at the highest decibel that you can find. It's always loudest under democracy. And that ties to issue of deprivation and poverty. Anytime we're practicing democratic system of government in Nigeria, issues around rebellion, uprising is always rampant. Don't forget that it was under democratic dispensation that we had Matasini crisis between 1980 to 1990 to 1983, before the military stepped in and arrested the situation under Shehu Shagari. You know, issues around corruption, go and check. Issues around housing, where the only unit that is burnt down in every ministries and parastatals under Shagari was the Ministry of the Department of Finance, Admin and Supply, because these are where the records are kept. And to escape punitive measures, when the military took over, the politicians in connivance with the civil servant burnt down account units and account department. Today, the EFCC is overwhelmed in terms of the magnitude of corruption, where monies that are meant to service the interests of the generality of the people are siphoned. You talk about security. Today, I think the worst time Nigeria has ever, not even the time of the Civil War, Nigeria undergo this kind of pains in terms of lack of security from north to west. The only geopolitical zone that is relatively peaceful today is the southwest. Other than that, almost all the remaining 5 geopolitical zones are battling one form of insecurity or the other. And this equally makes us to question the assumption that democracy promote peace, build peace because it thrives on peace.
Quite insightful analysis there. Now give us your take on the APC-led administration's impact on democracy in Nigeria so far.
Well, as far as I'm concerned, APC was able to do some few things that are good, and they are able to equally do some few things that are not really in tandem in the interest of the people of Nigeria. And that is the quagmire they've got themselves into, that they are trying to wriggle themselves out of. The first thing APC did that is good was to chase away the PDP in 2015. As at the time, the APC, in collaboration with Nigerians, chased away the PDP, it was a time that people were getting agitated. The protests were becoming loud. Rebellion was becoming almost everyday occurrence, with every region parading their own ethnic militias or the other. I love what happened, because it really truncated the arrogance with which the PDP was operating Nigeria as if it was their personal property. That gave Nigerians hope. And the slogan of APC was change. Change, 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 even if it means using whatever means. So even when we're talking about the quality of the representation, some people are questioning the credential of President Muhammadu Buhari, who was their candidate then. Nigerians were of the view that even if he never possessed any school living certificate, even if it is NEPA bill is able to present, they are ready to vote for him. And unanimously, in partnership with the masses of this country, PDP was chased out of power to end that very particular inglorious rule of the PDP. And then the APC came out with a diagnostic report about Nigeria. And that diagnostic report, as far as I'm concerned, is one of the best things that has happened and that has ever happened to Nigeria, apart from the development plans of the 1970s and the Vision 2010 document midwife by Legend Sani Abacha. As far as I'm concerned, that very particular document is something that is still relevant to our context today, and if we hold dearly to it, it was going to assist us to develop. And what was that document? The Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. It was a diagnostic report of all the weaknesses there are, the challenges, the threats, and the opportunities, and what needed to be done. That very particular document gave rise to the Economic Recovery and Growth Plan. In part of the responses to the challenges that document unveiled was the establishment of NISAL that was supposed to support agriculture. And then it was meant to build an ecosystem where you have the producers of paddy rice coming together with farmers as well as off-takers who are the millers to do one thing, to ensure that we don't go to Thailand and India to import rice. And that really assisted in so many ways to bring about development. And what were the development? One, agro-allied industries supporting agriculture sprang up. We have fertilizer blending plants springing up across the country. We have milling plants across the country. Then we have the retailers. So all of these went to do several things. One, they generated jobs. The second thing was that they reserve our foreign exchange earnings, so we're not under pressure. And imagine if we do not have producers of rice under COVID, that we need to import rice, and then knowing that everything was grounded, there were no threat between Nigeria and India or any other countries. Just imagine the consequences of that, knowing that Nigerians consume a lot of rice. That was one of the revolutions that I saw. But again, what is it again that they did wrong? Just like the PDP, under Buhari, a lot of abuses were condoned. Nobody was punished. We could do anything to get away with it because President Buhari believes that everybody is like him, and once he trusts you, you're going to deliver. And people capitalize on that very particular weakness. I call it a weakness because as a leader, you are bound to do two things. You keep and continue to keep the leaders that are doing right, and then you punish and continue to punish those leaders that are not doing the right things. Buhari failed in this account. And that was what responsible for even the abuse of NISAL, abuse of most of the policies, including what even Emefiele did as the CBN governor. And the repercussions are with us now. Now, coming to this administration, it was a renewed hope. And as a renewed hope, I thought that they are going to build on the achievement of the past by reviewing what was working, what is not working, and what needs to work, and how we can make it work. And what are we seeing? We are seeing abandonment of some of the things that made some persons, including some of us, to support Buhari then. We're talking about revolution in railway. Now, the railway master plan, which is due, I think, this year or next year, is neglected. Nobody's talking about railway. And we need railway to connect the various regions for economic activities. It's not for festivities. Just look at the connectivity between Abuja and Kaduna alone. It will tell you that all we needed, in addition to our resources, is means of transportation that is very cheap. When we do that, our roads will be safer. We will not be rebuilding our roads after five years because the tankers would have finished with those roads. That is what is leading to high cost of doing business. Transportation between cities. Production is very cheap. For instance, you go to Plateau State, you may get a basket of tomatoes for, say, 40,000. But to transport it to Lagos, you will need additional 40,000 because of two things. The roads are bad, which requires constant maintenance of vehicles, and then the cost of fuel that has skyrocketed because Mr. President decided to remove a subsidy. And I see that as a lazy way out of the entire situation, because what Mr. President and his team needed to do was to fight the subsidy thieves, not to push the burden to the public, already traumatized people that are living from hand to mouth. So for me, that is a failure on the part of this very particular administration. the NISAL revolution was a good thing, because if there was anything that was siphoning our resources, especially our foreign exchange earning, it was because we are dependent on others for our needs, especially rice. So at a point in time, we're borrowing money to import rice. But with the NISAL revolution, at the last count, we have more than 6 million companies in Niger State alone that are made it. Today, you have rice that are locally milled that can compete with those that are coming from Taiwan. And if you look at the multiplier effect in terms of employment and the amount of resources it has generated for farmers, for agro-allied product producers, for fertilizer blending plants, for transporters, for porters that are even carrying it on their head to either load and offload, you will now realize the multiplier effect and the people that have gotten employed directly or indirectly. Then when you connect that to the railway revolution, and then you see the corridor that we're talking about, where you have a linkage between Enugu and Maiduguri, and cutting across almost 13 states in the north. And then you have from southwest, direct to Kano, passing through the Middle Belt, branching to Plateau. Now you come to realize that it will be well connected and goods can move seamlessly at a very cheap rate from one part of the country that they have it in abundance to another part of the country that is not having it in abundance. I feel that what they needed to do was, one, to review the economic recovery and growth plan, the ease of doing business drive of the government back then, and then the NISAL revolution and other things that the government was doing, just the way they reversed the conditional cash transfer, and they are now tilting it towards a skill acquisition. I think that is what needed to be done. Then one of the things that the current government has done that I like is punishing officials that deserve to be punished. If you are found wanting, pending the outcome of investigation, you are asked to go. We saw what happened with Beta Edu and others. That is one good thing that the government is doing. But again, the last one that the government is doing that I do not like, which I personally was against under Obasanjo regime, Muhammad Buhari did not do it. Former President Bello Jonathan did not do it because he never made it a one-party affair where everybody must become the ruling party member before you know that you are doing something worthwhile. Democracy thrives on opposing views. It's about discussion. It's about point of opinion. It's about disagreement. It's not all about agreement all the time. It's about saying that we can do it differently. I think that is the appeal democracy holds. PDP was doing it their own way, and APC came to say we can do it differently, and they acquired power. And if everybody will have to coerce everybody in a subtle form or in whatever form to join the ruling party, I don't think APC will be able to dislodge PDP in 2015. So it shouldn't be about dislodging. It should be about what you are doing to satisfy the needs and aspirations of the people. And for the little I know, it is not all about elites in terms of retaining power or losing power. It's about the voting rights of the people and guaranteeing that the voting right of the people and ensuring that the vote of the people counts if you want peace and progress.
Now, you would recall that earlier this year, former military head of state Babangida revealed in his book, A Journey in Service, that the man who symbolizes the declaration of June 12 as Democracy Day, that MK Abiola won the controversial presidential election back in 1993. Babangida then expressed regret over his actions back then and of nullifying that election. How significant is that confession in the history of Nigeria's democracy?
It was not something new, and that he needed to take full responsibility was not something new. It is something that we already know right from when it was announced. Well, I wanted to say something, and I'm saying this with all sense of responsibility. Assuming President Olusegun Obasanjo never became president of Nigeria, we would be saying that he's the best president Nigeria never had. We will still say the same thing of former President Goodluck Jonathan, or Yar'Adua, or Buhari, especially Buhari, because Buhari was in the top for almost 20 years, doing all he could to become the president of Nigeria. And a lot of people, including yours sincerely, believe that with him, Nigeria was going to change. But I come to realize over so many years of reflections, going back to 1922, when the principle of elective positions were introduced into Nigeria, an election was introduced as the means to recruit leaders. And I've come to this conclusion that democracy in itself, what it entails, and the principles upon which it is built, is highly disruptive of societies. You need a strong man to be able to do the job. And we thought that Obasanjo was a strong man, but democracy demystified him. Because at a point in time, the same Obasanjo that was able to wield power and hold Nigeria together between 1975, when General Murtala was assassinated, and then he came on board to 1979. The same Obasanjo was not able to replicate the things that he was able to do in 2009 to 1999, sorry, 1999, I beg your pardon, to 2007. You know why? Because democracy thrives on one, individualism, which means self-interest first, before any other thing. Secondly, the consensus that democracy builds is not consensus that is positive alone. We equally have negative consensus, just the way we are having it in National Assembly. As a member, you cannot criticize your constituency, you cannot say anything, you cannot divulge any information, else you'll be suspended, because it's like a thief divulging what they call their professional secret. So democracy that is said to be about freedom of speech, freedom of thought, freedom of association, is proven not to be free at all, because you cannot just say anything you want to say. Now, under Obasanjo, we witnessed the bribing of different arms of government, which led Father Ejekam to write his famous book, Ghana Must Go Republic, Happenings in Nigeria, especially the Fourth Republic. And that issue of corruption has continued up to this moment. Issue of Ali Burton that I mentioned happened under General Olusegun Obasanjo, Siemens scandal, still under him. Now, when President Yar'Adua came, we said, okay, he's a good man. He has the knack to transform Nigeria. But again, corruption did not stop under him. Sabotage did not stop under him. Then we brought President Goodluck Jonathan, that popularly was known as a very good man. And as a good man, he was taken advantage of, just like any other president before. And people were like, this was the first time that we're having a PhD as the president of Nigeria. What happened? It was demystified. Just one corruption case alone, the arms deal, where you have a whopping $2.1 billion removed from the economy and shared among persons. Now, this is just one case, $2.1 billion, just under one circumstance, fighting insurgency in the Northeast. So we thought that by the time Buhari will come, everything will be fixed. And Buhari came. And what did he say finally? He said nobody should blame him, that he has provided all his aides with all they require to do what? To perform their functions and responsibilities to make Nigeria great again. So the insecurity they're talking about, they shouldn't blame, they should blame his appointees. And I think in the long run, it was more or less like a swear word that God will punish those people that betrayed him. So he was equally demystified. And this is what was equally happening under President Tinubu. President Tinubu was referred to as a strategist, and that he was going to reposition Nigeria overnight. And under him, we still have banditry, we still have clashes, kidnappings, and so on and so forth. The infrastructures are not yet up and running. Inflation is the highest. It's at the highest point you could think about. Poverty has increased. So what is that? So the question we should be asking is, what is that in democracy, to the extent that anytime we're implementing democratic reforms in Nigeria, we have increased poverty, increased insecurity and conflict, and then we have increased decaying infrastructure, and we have increasing rate of corruption, abuse, and poverty. Why? So I don't want to make an assertion that if MKO Abiola comes, based on the review I've done so far, it was going to be any different, because MKO Abiola is a businessman, and as a businessman, he's going to consider a lot of issues before taking decisions. And those issues, if properly taken, if it is not taken based on personal interest without much consideration to the greatest of this country as well as the welfare of the people, we still have the issues of corruption, because priorities will be considered not from the point of national interest, from national defense, from the well-being of the people, but what will enter the pocket of individuals. And when you have a democracy such as that, then be rest assured that you will never grow. And that is the bane of development in all the countries that say they are operating liberal democracy. Those countries that are operating liberal democracy that are progressing in terms of infrastructural development, in terms of establishment and thriving of new businesses, in terms of poverty reduction, in terms of reduction in conflict, those are democracies that are able to modify itself either from liberal democracies to social democracy to one-party state, name it. Rwanda started having peace when it went one-party state. When it was under a liberal multi-party system, there were conflict and crisis. Kagame had to stamp his feet on the ground, and then he was able to drive away those troublemakers. I am not seeing them as opposition, because opposition is different from troublemaking. When you are opposing, you must not destroy in order to oppose. You have to oppose constructively, bringing in your ideas and demonstrating how these ideas can better the loss of the people. If the people trust and believe in you, they give you their mandate to represent them and to do what you need to do. But if opposition is now the mobilization of arms, weapons, and projectiles, then it is no longer opposition, it's now war. And in such a situation, even if I'm the president, I will not tolerate such happenings.
No doubt the government must ensure the people positively benefit from the dividends of democracy. Mr. Abdulrahman Abu Hamisu, it's been quite a discussion with you. Thank you very much for sharing your thoughts with us. That's all for this section of the program. We'll have another guest to continue this discussion.